Hey, what's up, everybody? Brian Simmons here, and I wanted to make a video to talk about databases, one of the most important things in real estate, and just wanted to talk to you about how we utilize the database and what what the most important things are, and what's also not so important, and just how that database evolves over time. And so I'm going to share my screen with you here in a second, and we're going to kind of walk through this training and explain these important aspects of a database to you. So let's go. Okay, so we want to talk about your database. Okay, so we're going to have the DB right here in the center. That's your database. Okay, and a database is simply just contacts of people who you either know or don't know, who you want to do a transaction with. Okay, so the number one thing that we want them to know is that we want to transact with them. Okay, that's absolutely most important thing to think about with your database is that whoever's in your database, we want them to know that we would like to transact with them. So that's number one, transact. Okay, and that's more important than growing it. Okay, growing it is number two, I would say. Okay, you always want to be growing your database. Okay, and so you think about that. You grow it, you add people into it, and then you transact with them. The more important, why transacting with them is more important than growing it is because you want to have a decent conversion rate of the number of people you have in your database. You want to have them thinking about you when they think about real estate. So you want to, I would rather have 1,000 people in my database and convert with, 5% of them a year, which is what, 50 deals. I'd rather do that than have 5,000 people in my database and convert with, 0.5% of them a year. It's easier when you're doing a better job because then you just start adding to your database and you're going to see better results faster. Okay, so transacting is the most important thing. So number one thing with transacting is you want them to know you're in real estate. Okay, so that's the key thing. Know that you're in real estate, and then you want to stay top of mind. So we're going to say top of mind. Okay, top of mind. So how do you do that? These two things, there's totally different. We're gonna have different videos and we can do different trainings about the strategies for that. But again, the most important thing is you want them to know that you're in real estate, and so that when they think real estate, they think you. That is like of the utmost importance here when you're talking about your database. Okay. You can do that through things like a newsletter, things like social media posting, making sure that all the people that are in your database know that you're on social media and that they're connected with you. And then again, it's just staying top of mind. There's tons and tons of ways to do that. But again, that's just remember that that's primary, the primary goal of the database. Transact with them. You do that by staying top of mind and by making sure they know you're a realtor. Okay, so when we talk about growing the database, growing can happen in a multitude of ways. And I'll show you a different graphic here in a second that kind of illustrates what that looks like. And how that all works. But really, growing it is just things like social media or buying leads, or however it is that you generate leads. You want to plug them into your database, and over time, as you have your transacting percentages, whatever. Let's use that ugly 5 because I'm trying with a mouse, but let's say that's a 5. You have 5% of your database that buys from you every year. That's a huge number, though. I don't think it's realistically anywhere near that. But as you do that, and you have these people buying from you, they are eventually going to tell people. Okay, they're going to say, "Hey, I had a really good experience with Brian, the agent, and he did really a nice job for me. You should talk to him." And that adds to your database. And then they tell somebody and it adds to your database. And so eventually, like, your database just kind of, it grows and grows and grows and just goes on and on and on. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more it does that and it kind of takes on a life of its own, the more this becomes important. Okay, the growing doesn't really start to matter, or starts to matter less, I would say, once you get to a point where if you have, I don't know, let's say you want to do 50 deals a year. If you have 1,000 people and you're able to get 5% a year, you're there. You don't need to add more. You can continue to add more if you want to, but you don't really necessarily have to if you just focused on this instead. And so I think that that's just an important thing to know about the database, is that it's not all about just growing your database and getting some huge number of contacts in here. It's really more about properly managing those contacts and ensuring that you're top of mind, and that when they think of somebody who's a realtor, they think of you. That's going to be your best bet with the database thing. So I really wanted to just share what that's all about, and I'm going to pull up the other graphic here to explain. Okay, so this graphic is something that I put together for my team, and it's a good example of kind of what the core database is. So KV Core is the database that we use. And these are just various lead sources and different things that you can, add to your database with. So these are the ways that you grow it. The social media type avenues, squeeze pages and landing pages, Google search, having a website, a YouTube channel, like those sorts of things connect directly into your database. And in our case, it's KV Core. And these things directly integrate in. Same with Realtor.com and Zillow and other paid services. You can have API integrations to where when you get a Realtor.com lead, it automatically goes into your KV Core database, and you don't do anything. Okay, and same thing with your personal your sphere of influence, referrals and those things. You have to manually add those into the database, but there's ways that you could kind of automate that to some degree. But the point is, you keep building that database bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, you have different ways like a weekly market report, like I do, or other methods similar to that, where you're staying in front of people, top of mind, without necessarily calling them all the time saying, hey, like, do you want to buy a house? People don't like that. So if you can find like a soft way to connect with them and provide value, like a market report, then that tends to be effective. I've had a lot of good success with my market report, and if that's something that you're interested in implementing in your own business or want to implement something like this, let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you. So that is really all I have to say about the database. That's just the main stuff I wanted to share, and if you have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than happy to help you. Have a good one.